today. It has been really an interesting day today. Very busy day. A really very busy day. So yeah, you've seen the headline. Tendai Biti, of course, he decided to ditch his presidential role, and quite interesting days ahead. In pursuit of a new direction of life, which is taking employment in the United States of America. Okay. But you also know that he was part and parcel of Citizen Coalition for Change on a rotational basis of being a leader, the president. Good to see Moses. Everybody come through, please. Now, before we proceed, I'm going to ask you if it's your first time to come across this channel. Please do yourself a favor, subscribe. Make sure that you ring the bell so that every time we're live, you'll be notified immediately. And I want to send some shout out to everyone who's going to join tonight and those that will watch after, that your presence and your contribution means a lot. Please do yourself a favor and make sure that you comment. I would want to hear your reaction as far as this issue is concerned. President Tendai Biti, he decided to ditch the party. So we all know, the resume of this political party, that Nelson Chamisa was actually the leader prior to all the chaos that happened due to Sengeso Shavangu disturbing clean water, Akabongo Zambura. And here we are now with all these shenanigans. So quite very sad. And also, I'm going to pursue the story that, in fact, ANC is contributing nearly, I think, more than 50% or 60% of all the suffering that are in Zimbabwe. So there's a lot of people who are talking to that effect. So I would like you guys to also joining in while we have a conversation. Our killer Zivo this morning, he said, Ungati vakapiwa deadline, yekura yanyika, and they are behind the schedule. It's the actions. They are working hard to destroy. They've invited their friends, their friends from Russia, Belarus. We also saw China as well. These people are feasting on almost everything. The only thing they're leaving, Makomba. That's why there was a question that was asked by Dr. Walter Mozembe and said, are we under a curse? Because the actions of what's going on right now just show something is amiss in the country. Because the last time I checked, the children should be the one benefit. But people from the outsiders are having the big chunks of almost literally oil or resources. It's sad to watch. But this is a season that we are in, correct? All right. So Ali is saying events in South Africa on the 29th of May will have a direct impact on the direction Zimbabwe will take post-election. Anything else happening in Zimbabwe at the moment is a sideshow. South Africa's election will prove to be more important than pretending to vote in August 2023. And we all remember how ANC, some of his diplomacy, which, for example, Fikile Mbalula has been really bastardizing Nelson Chamisa and say, you guys are selling the country to foreigners. But who is selling? When you look at all the shenanigans that's going down in the country, who is really selling? But one thing I'll tell you is that it's like Zanu PF is colonizing Zimbabwe. Are we not under the colonization of Zanu PF and their friends, making sure that everyone suffers at the benefits of them and their babies, which means their friends, their children? It's quite a sad situation. Honestly, it is very sad. So now here you have it. Mr. Tendai Biti has resigned from his role on the faction of Citizen Coalition for Change as a president. He said, I'm ditching this whole thing. I'm not surprised. Honestly, there's nothing. There's nothing. I'm sure he's feeling embarrassed. You know what I mean? Remember when he was talking on RTV that he is actually one of the presidential candidates. Now, all of a sudden, he's waking up and saying, I don't want this position. And even alleging that Mafume is lied. You remember when he was in Bulawayo sitting and there was chairs that we saw, really empty chairs in some bottled water. And he was alleging that he was meeting some of his friends, which means that Tendai Biti and the friend to having a meeting. But Tendai Biti said, no, I have nothing to do with that Citizen Coalition for Change faction. They are lying about me. So let's hear Mr. Tendai Biti speaking about these interesting stories. Quite very sad days ahead, especially in the Citizen Coalition for Change that I'm referring to. There's going to be very interesting days ahead. Please just take a listen.
As an individual, I occupy spaces. I'm a lawyer. I've been doing what I've been doing in the courts with my strategic litigation. I'm busy writing. I think we're going to produce a book before the end of the year on unpacking liberation movements and so forth. But as an individual, I'm also entitled to rest, to have a sabbatical and so forth. So I'm in that mode. I'm in that mode of complete. I don't want to say isolation. Complete timeout, if you like. But I still remain driven, Dara, by the fact that we have to have democratic change in Zimbabwe. It's unfinished business. And I wish that every Zimbabwean shares the strong desire that I have to see a democratic, prosperous, equal, transparent, just Zimbabwe. We deserve better than Zanu PF.
But you've taken time out from your position as vice president of the CCC.
I don't want to go into from everything, from everything.
How do you do that when you're elected? I mean, just recently we saw a video of you saying you're elected at Congress, you are the president of the CCC and you're not going anyway. And now you have just, how do you let go of position that was bestowed to you at a Congress, just like that?
Everyone has got a constitutional right of controlling his or her affairs. At the present moment in time, as Tendai Biti, I've taken time out in certain spaces, including the political space.
You heard him. He said he's taken a sabbatical in so many spaces, including the political space, which means he's ditching his presidential role. I've never seen, we seem to be having a lot of, fights going on in the country, people crying to be leaders. And all of a sudden, there's very some people who were crazy about leadership. The last time I checked, they said he was a vice president of MDC structures. We also had, again, Washman claim for the same position. There was also an issue of Michael as well. Now, all of us, now he's waking up and saying, no, I don't want to be part and parcel of that leadership. Then you begin to ask yourself questions of what's really going on. Quite very interesting days ahead. Correct. Now we have had Mr. Tendai Biti confirming that you won't be in politics for a while. He's going away, and you hear more. Where is he heading to? So Ibama, as I said, when is a purported official opposition in Zimbabwe deplete, fragment, and your leaders and members variously fall victim to the temptations of patronage and freebies. Please note that you have not only failed dismally, but also betrayed the 90% or more Zimbabweans at home and abroad who are sick and tired of the residue of our struggle. Zichanaga Chete in my lifetime. I pray that the words that he just said, Mr. Imbomadaza, he means the words, because if he means it, it will happen definitely in his lifetime. So, you know what? We are focusing on the new project. All these shenanigans, they're simply sideshows. Like what my brother said, we'll keep our eyes on the ball, right? It's the freedom that we all seek as a Zimbabwean people. Freedom. Freedom to be who the Lord has called us to in terms of fulfilling purpose. Because as it stands right now, it's chaosy everywhere. It's chaos. Except for those who think they're eating. They think they're eating. Yet they don't know that they're just taking poison. Because their time is coming. It is coming. Okay, so eventually Hope Ochimono had to confirm what Biti is going to be focusing on, because Biti did not disclose, in his interview. By the way, you also know that, Hopo is a journalist, so maybe investigated and got hold of the information of what Tendai Biti will be doing while he is on sabbatical. So he went on to write a message again on X and says, Zimbabwe's former finance minister and opposition leader, Tendai Biti has taken a break from politics. Tendai Biti, who has been offered a job opportunities and fellowships with international financial institutions, is likely to leave Zimbabwe anytime soon after accepting a fellowship in the United States. His departure marks a sad day in opposition politics, as he was one of the bright sparks in intellectual politics, politicians in the Zimbabwe's opposition movement. So this is what I'm going to say. And you also saw headlines, with Beat News Day. I also saw Nehand as well, that Biti dumps was US CCC. But this is what I'm going to say as far as the brightness of Tendai Biti is concerned. No one can take that away, that Tendai Biti is smart. But one thing I'll tell you, I'm a firm believer that in every season, there's always going to be those people that are called to be players. All I can say is, Mr. Tendai Biti's season, where he says he's on sabbatical, it's okay, you must go sabbatical. So whether he's going to pursue employment, or he's going to be in Zimbabwe, or he's going to be, sitting on the beach, having a glass of wine, where he's going to be in bed 24/7, whether he's going to be jogging or in the gym, nobody cares. Absolutely nobody give a damn. That's all I'm going to say. Because at the end of the day, we are all called for a purpose. You know what I mean? And no purpose is special than the other. We are all unique, and our purposes are important. So honestly, I'm going to say to Mr. Tendai Biti, shout out, and I wish you all the best while you pursue whatever you're pursuing. But let me tell you, it will not stop Zimbabwe's freedom. We will remain resolute and on the cause to make sure that the freedom that God has conferred on us is realized. By all means, whatever it takes, Zimbabwe will be free. And we don't even need Tendai Biti or Weshmengube or Mafume. No, we just need the committed ones. And there's so many, as a matter of fact. I loved what I heard today. I think I was listening to an interview. No, that's actually Job Sikhala. We're going to be listening to Job Sikhala's interview with the BBC as well, where he mentioned, and he said, no, it's not even about being part and parcel of a political party. It really has to do with what's in your heart. Freedom is written, like I'm talking about, really stamped on Zimbabweans' hearts. Zimbabweans want freedom. Whether they can be that politician who seems to be peculiar or not, the freedom will be realized with a few that are still on the course. So yeah, just to go through the article that really had to explain much of why Tendai Biti left and what some of the things that he said pertaining to the CCC. So in detail, the Newsday reported that former Finance Minister, Citizens Coalition for Change, co-Vice President Tendai Biti has dumped the main opposition political party, saying he's taking a sabbatical away from politics as he goes on a soul-searching break. You had a clip of it, him confirming, but they had to put a bit of details based on the interviews that they hold with him, which is going to be aired tomorrow night by HSTV. So yeah, you can watch in detail and in full. We are going to be there again, try to at least extract some of his allegations, because he's still alleging a lot of things that is, as far as this whole, leadership and, coalition with some of his brothers is concerned. So he went on to say, speaking on HSTV Free Talk Show, Biti was supposed to take over a CCC president from the current leader, Weshmengube, on a rotational basis, said he had withdrawn from the politics of focus on other spaces that can help to remove the ruling party, Zanu PF, from power. So I think if whatever that is being written here, that is focusing on freeing Zimbabweans, if that is the goal, I'll say, Mr. Tendai Biti, we bless you, and we still believe that whatever you're doing there, it will definitely going to play a part. As a matter of fact, the freedom Zimbabweans are looking for is going to require everyone. It's no longer a partisan or political thing. Everyone should join forces to free this country. They also say the outspoken former legislator disowned the statement made by self-imposed CCC spokesperson Jacob Mafume that they had held a meeting which agreed to make him Ngube and Lynette Kore rotational leaders of the party following the resignation of Nelson Chamisa from the CCC. The opposition CCC was left leaderless after Chamisa ditched the party, ravaged by self-imposed interim Secretary General Sengezo Shavangu, who recalled several legislators from parliament after the general elections held last year. Everyone has a constitutional right of controlling his own affairs at the present moment. And time, Tendai Biti, I have taken a time out in certain spaces and political spaces, he said. I'm not sure of the meeting you're referring to I'm not aware of the meeting that made me a rotational president. Speaking on HSTV free talk show, Biti, who was supposed to take over a CCC president from the current leader, Washington on a rotational basis, said he had withdrawn from politics to focus on other spaces that can help to remove the ruling party, Zanu PF. Following the announcement that Biti had taken over the CCC, there was a public backlash, with the three being labeled sellouts and had betrayed the struggle and jumped in bed with Zanu PF, an allegation BET has denied. As an individual, I occupy spaces. I'm a lawyer. I'm doing what I have been doing in the courts with my strategic litigation. So this is what he said. He's going to be focusing on his profession as an attorney. Apart from him being an attorney, he also have other things that he does, running a business, I think his law firm. Also, he's a writer. You mentioned that he's going to be releasing a book before the end of the year, or a struggle book. We are also waiting to see that book patiently. Honestly, I'm a person who normally focus on the good things that someone has done than the bad things. I've learned that in life you can do a million good things, but one day you just make a mistake. People can easily forget all that you have done. I still believe that these people have gone through a lot, and that can never be denied. But I tend to between all the people that have been playing for, I think for decades literally, have been through the most. Notwithstanding what happened recently, I'm not trying to rule out the fact that things really went sour, but I also want to appreciate the fact that these guys really worked extremely hard. I was talking to my family today. I said, the challenge I've seen and I've spotted with the Zimbabwean community is that the situation of Zimbabwe was not supposed to be resolved under a political banner. It could have been resolved from a national problem. Because there's no Zimbabwean who's moving around with a passport written Zanu PF or CCC or Ngonzora. What's Ngonzora's party? MDC. No Zimbabwean is moving around with a passport that is written in a political party, which I find this very sad in a way. That's why I think all these allegations that ANC has played a major role in delaying Zimbabwe's freedom. I believe it, because I always ask myself, I'm sitting here and I have my neighbor or my friend, and I know that the kids are being abused. I'm not going to wait for any protocol, especially when those kids keep coming to my house. I'm definitely going to say, my friend, what's going on? This kid seems to be complaining about your behavior. This has to change. I'm going to, because maybe I'm a very firm person and I believe in people's sanity. So I'm sitting on the other end and I'm like, why can't they do something? Why can't they do something? Because ANC has really been sitting, and just act like they don't see the suffering of people of Zimbabwe. At the same time, they also complain about the influx of people coming to the country, and you even speaking against, the movement, which is the opposition, but the alternative. Isn't the alternative, because everyone who is seeking for a position is a Zimbabwean. So there's no foreigner who's seeking for a position. Chamisa is a Zimbabwean, and Amunzora, they're Zimbabweans. Linda Masari is Zimbabwean. Valerio is Zimbabwean. So all of these guys, Ngosanamoyo, they're all Zimbabweans. So I can never look at them like they're foreigners. So in other words, I'm trying to say that we don't want to be hoodwinked, around this political mantra and forget the most important part, that we are one people. It must never be forgotten. We are one. We are family. And we need to be respected from that aspect. Not because of any political party, because there is no political party that is bigger than Zimbabwe. No. As a matter of fact, a leader, a president is simply an individual. They're not bigger than Zimbabwe. It's just a person who can wake up tomorrow dead. There's nothing special about them. There's nothing special about you. You're simply a leader. So Dr. Walter Muzembe, he said, a political sabbatical is when a politician says, I'm taking a leave from politics. I tried it and came out of it mentally before the ink pronouncing my sabbatical had dried on the 100% cotton paper I was scribbling on. Reality is a politician will only take a sabbatical when he is 6 feet under. It's impossible to offload a purpose just like that. So a sabbatical may just mean a leader with no formal leadership responsibility, no obligations to anyone, but for how long my generation shall be like a Jonah of Nineveh while Rome burns? It's a very good question. And then he tagged Nelson Chamisa. He also tagged Tendai Biti, and he tagged Honorable Kasukwere. And the Kasukure issue is going to be it's going to be burning. I'm looking at that issue tonight as well, around 9:30. I'll be back discussing about Kasukure's presidency, where people are saying he may be coming and run in 2028 as a Zanu PF candidate. We're going to be looking at that story. Quite interesting days ahead. Quite interesting days ahead, y'all. Quite interesting. But one thing I want to tell you, only a fool will think that people are not campaigning. We need to start coming together and make sure we are involved because people are campaigning. The campaign started a long time ago. You saw all the scripts that were sent out before the election was even held. People already sent out scripts of what's going to be happening after elections. We should do some people are always 24/7 on an election mode. What does that mean? You and I, we should stand up and play the part to make sure that the freedom we are looking for is completely realized. There's nothing that will stop the freedom to come in Zimbabwe. Nothing, absolutely nothing that will stop it. It's coming, and the wind blows so heavily, it's coming. Very soon, and it will be here. But again, like I said, it requires you and I, every Zimbabwean to come together, entire world and say, listen, positions aside, this country has to be fixed for the benefit of all our Zimbabweans. Now let's talk about the issue of the impact of the ANC position and the Zimbabwean community, which I told you earlier on that Ali had sent out a message and said events in South Africa on the 29th of May, the election day that is coming, will have a direct impact on the direction in Zimbabwe will take post-election. Anything else happening in Zimbabwe at the moment is a sideshow. South Africa's election will prove to be more important than pretending to vote in August 2023. And this is what I'm going to say. I'm praying to say ANC needs to be removed. Let me say, if there can be coalitions, I pray that those coalitions would definitely going to have people who are compassionate, especially on a Zimbabwean situation. Because the current leadership that we have, because of the love of power, how greedy they will do anything to keep Zimbabweans at ransom, which is satanic and evil. It's ungodly. Because when I heard Eddie Cross mentioning the same thing, and I also heard Job Sikhala saying the very same thing, that the reason why Zimbabwe is in a mess is because ANC is holding Zimbabweans at ransom, because they are afraid that the moment there is freedom in Zimbabwe, then South Africans are also going to make sure that they remove them. Can you see what people can do? Can you see what human beings can do just to keep a position? It's very sad. Eddie Cross mentioned that when he was having a meeting with Dara. He was talking about the issue of COSATU and also talking about the issue of Zimbabwe. Remember, Zimbabwe had its own the unions for like employment. What do you call them, man? Workers' union, which is where ZCTU, right? That's where EMDC emanated from. So you were saying ANC would do everything in their power to make sure that that freedom doesn't reign in Zim. So at least they're able to also, keep their positions here. It's sad. I mean, listen to that. It's heartbreaking. Some of our brothers were burned. You remember? Xenophobia? Do you remember that? So it means those people that were burned, the blood is in their hands. It's definitely in their hands. People that were killed, the blood is in their hands. But I'm still a firm believer that, you know what? There's always a season for something. And that season is going to end. And freedom is soon going to reign. We are not a violent people. That's why people have always been using violence as a machination to hurt us. Because we are not a violent people. We believe in communication. We believe in peace. We believe in love. We believe in unity. But they have been trying to spread hatred, division. Always, this is why I said, the Zimbabweans, we need to unite. Notwithstanding our race, gender difference, ethics, be it religion, we must come together for the sake of peace. Otherwise, these people are going to keep capitalizing on our division. Divide and rule, yes. So let's hear out, Cross, please.
And his party was a leftist trade union structure. And he was talking to this COSATU and trying to persuade COSATU to go independent. And in the tripartite alliance, which is the ANC in South Africa, COSATU is the muscle, 4.8 million members. ANC only had 187,000. It was COSATU with the money. If COSATU had left the ANC and formed an independent party, the ANC would have been defeated. So what Mbeki said was, ZANU must remain in power in Zimbabwe because if the MDC comes to power, the ANC itself will lose power in South Africa. Was he wrong? Let me tell you, the one thing about Mbeki, he's got some brains. I think he was one of the more effective South African presidents. And he was right. We were a threat to the ANC. So what did they do? They fought us. During their diplomatic missions in the United Nations, the European Union, they fought us around the world. Fought us specifically, okay? And when it came to them manipulating the elections here, 2002, we won 2000. I remember that 2005 election like it was yesterday. Remember our people queuing, 3 kilometers long, queuing all night, and then eventually they just closed the ballot boxes, and we won that election. Morgan was elected president with more than a surplus of 400,000 votes against Mugabe. What did the South African government do? They simply said, ZANU PF has won. And we couldn't fight that. We underestimated the influence of South Africa in the struggle that we were engaged in.
But Morgan didn't underestimate it, because I remember a clip.
He did.
I remember a clip where he said that if South Africa speaks today, Zimbabwean the situation will improve, when he was accused of calling for sanctions.
Just remember this, when South Africa supported the GNU, we had a GNU. Would we have had a GNU without their support? No. If it had been left to ZANU PF by itself, they would have never agreed to a GNU. We would have had a military junta running the place. In fact, who would argue that in the last 4 or 5 years before the GNU, we were a military junta? Who was making the decisions? The military. You know, so we've had a long history since independence of political instability and struggles for power, and the people have suffered. When the elephants fight, the grass suffers. Okay, now you've got a situation where I think we've got a government which is trying to start to do the right thing.
There's nothing the Zanu PF is doing that is right. Sorry, Mr. Eddie Cross, I don't want to listen to absolutely nothing. Talking about Zanu PF is actually a waste of my time. They're doing absolutely nothing. Talking about them is a waste of my time. So the bottom line is, if anything that they would hold Zimbabweans at ransom now, maybe the time is up. And I'm so glad. And I want to say shout out to Zuma, because Zuma has always been standing up, supporting Zimbabweans. He's always, honestly. So I want to say shout out to him, coming through, take all those votes, take the entire, Zulu, take all those people. And let me just say this. There was someone who was saying, Zuma could have lost. I said, even the IAC, not the IAC, the judges knew what was going to come after that if he had lost. You remember last time when he got arrested, what happened with the July unrest? What happened? It was chaos everywhere. The Zulu people don't play games, they mean business. I can tell you, they knew what was coming for them. It's different from Zimbabwe, where they abuse people the way they want to. You see that, remember that time when the Kasuki was blocked? If it was here, it was not going to happen. I remember the young boy, that is Mupo Dagada. He was also been removed from the ballot paper. They put him back. They don't play, they mean business. But in Zimbabwe, they just abuse people. They do as they please. They will pick up a small boy and then they pick someone who's a street kid, people like Sangezo Shavagu, and he will destroy an entire country. And people think it's funny, and they're just laughing. Old men go to parliament wearing suits, go there for this kind of shenanigans. Not classy, disgusting, embarrassing, absolutely disgusting. People think that you're doing it for Chamisa. No, you're doing it for yourself. Imagine be sitting in a parliament where people do as they please, where there's no order and respect for the rule of law. It's a shame. I've heard actually that there are people who are demanding cars as we speak. Talk about the range cars, the members of parliament. And the country is depleting. You are a shame and an embarrassment. You're driving those on top of the range cars on potholes. That's how disgusting our people has become. We're the problem, the people. Zanu PF realized that Zimbabweans are dumb and they capitalize on our foolishness. You keep yourself at ransom because of material things that does not even last. A car that you can't even afford to maintain. What a shame. What a shame. But we'll wait and see where this is going. We are waiting, and we are really definitely following very closely. And like I said, I pray that ANC loses. Yes, they must lose. Big time. You know why? If they lose, what will happen? If they lose, I know exactly what will happen. Zimbabweans will be free. And for that reason, because all these other parties do not tolerate the nonsense of Zanu PF. They don't take it. And they've been calling out all these shenanigans and saying, not again. That's why I get it. That's why they're always, not acting like they're saying something. And I know a number of them are benefiting from Zimbabwe, so like Russians and Chinese. But the people from that country are suffering. But God, I know your time is coming. I've been saying, for those that think that, oh my God, we are being known, we are eating, how long is that going to last? How long is that going to last? Because things are going to change soon. Some of you'll even be afraid to walk on the street. Because everywhere you go, right? Everywhere you go. So now we're going to take a listen to, to Wiwa and his interview. It was a very interesting but a very strong interview, with the BBC that he had. Also, again, still mentioning that ANC is playing a huge role in the suffering of the people of Zimbabwe. That breaks my heart. It does not make sense. So you think, oh, they are being nice, or they give people these permits. No. It's a hook. That's what he's saying. Take a listen, please.
Legislation in the form of the Patriotic Act, and also in the private voluntary organization bill that they were introducing for them to curtail the operations of human rights organizations and other entities that were in pursuit of the public interest. Also, secondly, I came out when there was complete, total closure of the political space in our nation. Our people are no longer able to breathe in as far as exercising their political rights in the nation is concerned. Political space has been closed down. Critics are now have been abducted. Some of them, you read them in the press and in other international reports. Others lost their lives.
And on the question of President Mnangagwa and his re-election, which, as I say, you were in detention during that election, what we saw were that international monitoring groups expressed serious concerns about that election, not least the Southern Africa Development Community delegation represented and led by Neves Mumba, a former Zambian vice president. He said some aspects of this election fell short of the requirements of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, the Electoral Act, and the SADC's principles and guidelines governing genuinely democratic elections. So there were serious concerns, but frankly, in the months since then, Mnangagwa has entrenched his power. The Southern African nations have basically congratulated him and accepted the election result. And you must feel you lost in terms of a campaign to topple him.
That is the reason why he kept me in prison without any crime that I have committed in the nation. The strategy by the regime was that I was supposed to be eliminated from the electoral processes that were going to August 2023. So they found an excuse of a matter where I was representing as a legal practitioner one of the persons who had been brutally murdered by the people whom, in terms of our own investigations as the lawyer of the family, is that these people had political motivations. And the motivation came from the people who are anti-democratic, people who do not accept diversity in our country, and also people who do not accept people to belong to the political organizations of their own choice. So it was a strategy for them to eliminate me from the elections. They were not sure of my reaction in the event of a rigged political outcome like what happened in August when I was not there.
But
so
I was released on the 30th of January
after Mnangagwa has finished his business of entrenching his power.
Yeah.
He started interfering with the running of the opposition CCC political party. I found when I went into prison, I left a functioning and running political party. But when I came out on the 30th of January 2024, I found out a political party that is splintered into several factions and claimants to the authority of the organization.
Well,
so it was really disappointing that the political party that I suffered for in prison, when I came out, it was no longer in existence.
Well,
it was now
if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Sikhala, you need to keep your answers as brief as you can, because I need to ask you some questions. You've raised a very important point about the main opposition party, of which you were a senior figure, the Citizens Coalition for Change. As you say, you emerged from prison to find the party in chaos. It had a new Secretary General, Sengezo Chabangu, who basically said that a whole host of your own party's MPs who'd been elected in August were not legitimate, and he wanted by-elections to remove some of his own party members. And as a result of that, Zanu PF won a significant number of new seats, which gave them a 2/3 majority in the Zimbabwean lower house of parliament. And as a result of that, Nelson Chamisa, the former leader of the CCC, seems to have abandoned the party. You've described it as nothing more than a carcass. So can we take it that the CCC is now dead?
In as far as I am concerned, like what I said when I came out of prison, I did not want to associate myself with either of the splintered groups in the CCC political party on the basis that you would not know the origins of the conflict that has led the organization to split into 4 different political factions. I would not have followed any one of those factions on the basis that I was not aware of the reasons why the political party I left was now into disarray and also into different pieces like that.
Why, Mr. Sikhala? Please tell me simply, why has the main Zimbabwean opposition party collapsed in such spectacular fashion? Should we blame Nelson Chamisa for creating a party that didn't really have a constitution and a proper national organization? Or should we blame Zanu PF because Mr. Chamisa claims this is all the result of infiltration from the ruling party, and he said that he wouldn't swim in a river full of hungry crocodiles? What is your explanation?
Despite the crocodile's failure to run the nation and also bringing reforms that are required for the people of Zimbabwe, he has expertise in terms of infiltrating and destroying opposition political organizations. It did not start yesterday with the CCC, but even during the period of our independence, his fingerprints are found all over the destabilizations that were happening in ZAPU. His agenda and objective was to obliterate and completely destroy ZAPU from the political face of Zimbabwe. Even during the period of the MDC, we know the role that he has played in terms of bringing confusion within the MDC political superstructure. Not only that.
No, hang on. I'll be honest with you, Mr. Sikhala, we don't have time to go through the whole history of opposition movements since 1980. We simply don't have time. But I would like you to address this question. Do you think the opposition movement right now is failing the people of Zimbabwe, who face so many enormous economic problems and systemic political repression?
Opposition political parties in Zimbabwe is not groupings. It is the mindset of the people of Zimbabwe. What is in the mind of the people of Zimbabwe is the opposition. They despise the current regime in an unprecedented manner. There is deep discontent within the masses of our people that cannot be washed away. The groupings are not the opposition. The opposition is the mindset and what is in the mind of an individual Zimbabwean. The opposition within the mindset of the generality of our masses is that it is organized, it is not going to make any retreat as far as their pursuit.
What Zimbabweans, if I may say so, Mr. Sikhala, what Zimbabweans want, I think, is pretty straightforward and simple answers to straightforward and simple questions. This question is simple. Are you and Nelson Chamisa going to work together to try and create a new political movement?
Steve, my brother Steve, I don't think I would be here to boggle myself on talking about individuals. What I'm concerned more is about the hunger that is striking the nation of Zimbabwe. I'm concerned about the human rights abuses that are continuously being perpetrated against the defenseless people of Zimbabwe. Unemployment at the present moment in Zimbabwe is 85%. The people who are living under extreme poverty are 49%. I will not be able and prepared to dwell on individuals. I think if you have got any questions about Nelson Chamisa,
but the point surely
that you once had him in this program.
I absolutely take your point about the depth of the economic crisis facing Zimbabweans today, and indeed there are multiple reports of hunger spreading across parts of the nation involving perhaps 2 million or more Zimbabweans as the drought worsens agricultural situation. I understand the depth of the crisis, but you, if I may say so, have come out with a very ambitious program for this future. You talk about a nationwide consultation with the people from the grassroots up. You say that you're going to create a national convention with up to 5,000 delegates who will tell us where they want Zimbabwe to go politically. My question to you is, how can you actually deliver any of that when you talk about the scale of political repression? We see the Human Rights Watch and other human rights groups reporting on repression at every level in Zimbabwean society. How can you possibly deliver this new national movement?
We will never retreat from asserting our rights as Zimbabweans. We are entitled in terms of both domestic and international law for us to engage in legitimate and constitutional political activity. There is no any reason why we should be stopped for us to pursue a mass consultative process in Zimbabwe, because what I observed when I come out of the prison is that there was a divorce between the leadership and also the masses of our country. The masses of our country were no longer the owners of the mass democratic struggle in our country. The masses became subordinate to the struggle in Zimbabwe. But my understanding is that every successful fight against a repressive regime and any tyrant and dictatorship in the history of mankind is that the masses were the couriers of the destiny of their own country.
Right,
so we are now
all right, I think there's a challenge in Zimbabwe that I've been hearing people say, Chamisa is playing like an individual politics. I think, if you heard them many times accuse him of being here's the thing. Show me any political party where there's no leader. Show me any political party you can name. I look at the ANC, there's Ramaphosa. We are talking about Zuma right now. Those are like the main contenders in a political party, right? Look at Obama in the United States of America. We didn't even know who he was working with, but we knew Obama as a leader, correct? Why is it in a Zimbabwean context it becomes a problem when it's Chamisa that is at the forefront? Why? Again, I will repeat, I personally think it's because the elders are just jealousy of the young. I'm sorry to say this, but it's a fact. I don't find it making sense, honestly. A leader is a leader. What do you want him to say? You want him to say, I'm not a leader, and he is the leader of the party. And the people were always going to call his name. So what do you want? You want them to say, they want them to say, Awash Mengwe, Tendai Biti. No, it's not about, it's about a leader. Chamisa was the leader of CCC. I don't understand. Only on the Zimbabwean context where it's a problem. But when Zanu PF is hailing ED, nobody says anything. nurses for ED, teachers for ED, doctors for ED, Nanga for ED, prostitutes for ED. You remember? There was a lot in Bava for ED. We saw them on the campaign trail. Nobody complained. But it's only when it's Chamisa that is being held. It's a problem. As much as I do, I'm on the struggle. I want to see freedom in the country. But I cannot divorce myself from the fact that Chamisa is a leader. It's as simple as that. And if I want to support his campaign, I'm supporting Chamisa's campaign. Maybe what you must call me now, you can say I'm a Chamisa person. Because for me, honestly, I'm sorry to say this, I am not more sold out to the party than I'm sold out to the person. I look at the person, what are they offering, right? If I was sitting in this position and it's between ED, like President Mnangagwa, and Kasukwire, I'm sorry I'll be on the campaign to support Kasukwire. I would rather take Kasukwire than President Mnangagwa, right? It means for me, I'm following the person more than I can follow in the political party. So we cannot divorce the fact that people who are always going to follow the person. But this is why it's pissing me off. I can actually see that Zimbabwe, most men in Zimbabwe, especially the ones in the late 40s, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you are driving us crazy by trying to delay the struggle because you're jealousy. It doesn't matter. Chamisa's 46. What matters is we are having the freedom that we need. We have a person who's leading us. There is no way you expect to have a person who is a leader to just be nothing. It's crazy. It's crazy. Can you hear what Job Sikhala is saying? Can you hear what he's saying? He's talking about, it's not, I don't want to talk about an individual. It's not about talking about the individual. He was a leader of CCC. It's not about being an individual. Yes, we acknowledge and we respect almost everyone who supported or was working with him, members of parliament. We support that. We understand and we acknowledge them. But we can't take away the fact that Nelson Chamisa was their leader. And we're always going to be calling Nelson Chamisa before we call Fazema, unfortunately. We always. I'm a person that today can support Nelson Chamisa. If tomorrow someone come and I will look and see who is more stronger, I go with the person. I check who is more stronger, I go with the person. So for me, politics is always about a person. You can't take that away from everybody. As much as there can be Zanu PF, as I was telling you today, that I'm going to be looking at a savior, Kasukure's issue. That savior may be running under Zanu PF. These are simply speculations that people are saying savior may come back because there's nobody stronger. You see, it's not about the person. But it's only Chamisa that is a problem. Because people are jealousy. Say things as they are, because definitely people are simply jealous about Chamisa, in my opinion. There's no reason why we always be fighting about, it's about a person. It has always been about a person, unfortunately. Hichilema was the leader for whichever party it was, and people would talk about Hichilema. It doesn't mean that, you guys, you're not important. It simply means he is the face of that political party. And Chamisa was. And even now, right now, we are waiting for a signal. We're going to be following Chamisa again. Unfortunately, wherever he goes, Chamisa, we go. It's that simple. Yeah. I told you, if it could be President Emmerson Mnangagwa, maybe head on. Let's just assume that there was no Chamisa in the place. And it's only the two of them. I will go for Kasukwire. Why? Because I think he's stronger than him. With all respect. I guess that's why it was harder for Kasukwire last time because, when he was blocked, because they knew that if he was head on with President Emmerson Mnangagwa, Zanu PF people were going to vote for Kasukwire. It's just, let's just make this, let's put it to rest. People are simply jealousy of Nelson Chamisa, in my opinion. And they keep on saying it's about the person. It has always been about the person, unfortunately. Politics is about a person. That person has to be the face of that political party. And that person holds water than all other things that surround him. Because remember, people that surround him can be changed anytime, any day. Chamisa was clear when he was on the campaign trail that when he wins to be the president of Zimbabwe, he will work with people across the board, which means he was going to actually elect appoint ministers. Maybe Ngosana Moyo was appointed by Mugabe, but he was not part of Zanu PF. Mugabe had appointed nearly 15 people that were, no, was it 8? No, sorry, 8, 9, if I'm not mistaken, who were not in Zanu PF. But that's what it means. It's only Chamisa where it becomes a problem. But all other people, there's no problem. So is it about the struggle or it's about jealousy? Because Nelson Chamisa is a forefront because he's only 46 years old. That's the problem with us. Look, people in Senegal, they are free today. And you are holding us at ransom. You are delaying the struggle because Chamisa is young. It's stupid. Let the country be free so people can fulfill purpose. We are running out of time. We don't have time anymore. Young people are suffering. Please, let us go. If you are pissed by the fact that you have got a leader who's young, sit down. Don't do anything. Just sit in your house. Zimbabweans want freedom. We are sick and tired.
We are now giving them back the power which we took away from them.
But be realistic with me, Mr. Sikhala. I am mindful that your nickname for many Zimbabweans is Wiwa, because you model yourself on the Nigerian environmental and human rights activist Ken Saro-Wiwa. But we know what happened to Mr. Saro-Wiwa. He was eventually executed by the military dictatorship in Nigeria back in 1995. As you've pointed out, the repressive human rights record, the fact that opposition activists disappear, some of them have been killed. If you go back to Zimbabwe, because you're not there right now, isn't the reality that if you continue with the language you're using with me, you may well disappear yourself?
The struggle for the freedom of the masses of our people is not one we can relent upon. We are, like what I have been saying several times, I am prepared to die for the causes that I believe in. I know the kind of the regime that I'm dealing with, and also the way how they persecuted me when I was in prison, not only once. Don't forget, Stephen, that I have been arrested 68 times on different allegations, being persecuted by the same regime. But I cannot relent at this hour because the people of our nation want their freedom. They want themselves to be able to exercise their democratic right to choose leaders of their own choice. There is no way we can be afraid of death. Death has visited so many people in the history of the struggle of the people of Zimbabwe.
When so many of your people, as you have rightly pointed out, are living in the most desperate economic circumstances, they don't have jobs. We see thousands and thousands of them still trying to flee Zimbabwe to get to South Africa and other countries. When they are in that position, how do you feel about neighboring leaders like President Ramaphosa in South Africa actually congratulating Mnangagwa on his election victory? And how do you feel when you see the Americans and the Europeans impose targeted sanctions which don't really appear to be having much effect on Zimbabwe, and you see China and Russia deepening their very warm economic and political relationships with the Mnangagwa government? How do you feel about that international response?
The issue is that you asked me about the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa coming to congratulate Emmerson Mnangagwa on a rigged electoral outcome. The truth of the matter is that we have been able to study the history of our own mass democratic struggle since 1999. And we have noticed and identified the role which the ANC and also consecutive ANC governments in South Africa have played to undermine the mass democratic struggle in our country. Don't forget that these are the same people who forced the global political agreement on the people of Zimbabwe when Robert Mugabe and Zanu PF were defeated in an election.
So to be clear,
so
are you
the
saying,
ANC's role has always been to undermine the people of Zimbabwe.
I need to be very clear with you because we're almost out of time. Are you saying that even now you believe the ANC government is undermining you and the Zimbabwean opposition?
Fikile Mbalula, the Secretary General of the ANC, he has been spewing a lot of main controversial statements against our people and also against the opposition forces in our country. So there is no doubt that it is the ANC policy for them to undermine the democratic forces in the country of Zimbabwe. Since the period of President Thabo Mbeki, we have seen what they've done in our country. We have seen how they've undermined the will of the people. So the truth of the matter is that it is the ANC's policy for them to undermine the people of Zimbabwe in the pursuit of their own freedom.
Well, that's quite a charge, and it's a charge that at some point we may well be able to put to officials in the South African government. They're not here to respond to that. Before we end, though, I come back to this notion that as you emerged from detention and now you're trying to lead a new movement in Zimbabwe, you are facing impossible odds. Let's just think about one more thing. Because of what happened in a bunch of by-elections recently, the ruling party, Zanu PF, now controls a two-thirds majority in the lower house. They can, at least in theory, try to push through a change in the constitution to allow President Mnangagwa to run for a third term. If that happens, what happens to Zimbabwe and to the people that you are trying to represent?
That is why we are engaging in the process of consulting the people of Zimbabwe for them to own the mass democratic struggle in our country. What we will do is that we will go back to our people, consult them on the form of reaction and action we should take. And they will give us the way forward on how to respond if the third term agenda is tabled in Zimbabwe. We'll go back to the people, we'll consult them, we'll ask them to give us the way forward which they will carry themselves out for them to make sure what they want is going to be done.
But in a word, the struggle goes on.
The struggle goes on unabated.
Job Sikhala, we have to end there. I thank you for joining me on Hard Talk.
All right, so that was Job Sikhala. You heard him. Right, yes. Yeah, quite interesting. Really quite interesting. Again, I still believe that this issue, now it really makes sense to me now when you look at the ANC benefiting from our suffering. It makes a lot of sense because if it was really like under normal circumstances, I don't think Zimbabwe would be where it is today. But you know, the moment that people are benefiting from your suffering, then you know that you are in trouble. You know, if it was, you know, like any other issue, it's a brother and a sister who are fighting, people could find solutions. You know, when there were issues in between Palestine and Israel, people jump and, you know, you could see South Africa. You remember, you know what I'm saying? But Gukurahunda happened, more than 20,000 people were slaughtered and everybody was watching. What did they do? But they were able to go to Israel. What is that supposed to tell you? They have the capacity. But unfortunately, as long as they have something that they're benefiting, they don't care. That can show you how evil the people have become and how crazy people are as far as material things are concerned. It's sad. And that's why sometimes I don't get surprised when I see some of all these kids dying of cocaine and taking drugs. You know why? Because the fathers and the parents are sowing evil seeds. And they don't know that it's going to catch up with them. It's a principle. You sow evil, you get evil. Notwithstanding your position that you hold. If you are sowing evil today, your day is coming. Sometimes it's going to fall on your grandchildren. Innocent kids will suffer because of the sins of their fathers. There are so many people today in our country, in Zimbabwe, who thinks they're going to be where they are forever. No, it's simply a season. It's going to pass soon. Some people are going to pay it heavily. Yes. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest shall never cease. Whatever you sow in life is exactly what you reap. You may even, you know, remember when you sow a seed, sometimes you reap a harvest. What is that supposed to mean? You reap in multiplication. They think it's about the things that they're collecting. No, that money will kill their kids tomorrow because they'll be sitting now, oh, I've got the cars. Any car I've driven it. You know, I've stayed in a house. We've got million houses out there. What do I do? The only thing that is left, let me take drugs and kill myself. Because you have violated a principle. People work for the money. You don't just give them the money. You don't just store things. That's not how it works. You don't build generational wealth like that. You're collecting and collecting and collecting and collecting and collecting and collecting. Until when? Until when? Interesting days ahead. So, I'm coming back in the next how many minutes now? 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I'll be back. We're looking at the campaign for Xavier Kasukwiri that is heating up. That he may be still standing for he may be running under Zanu PF banner. People are having these discussions right now as we speak. Quite interesting days ahead, But I also told you last time that as far as Zanu PF is concerned, this may be strategic ambiguity, pretending that they do not want, the President Emerson Mnangagwa may not want the third term, but you heard him saying so. But I'm just saying it may be strategic ambiguity. You know what I'm saying? So you open your eyes, as you close one eye should be wide open. Yeah. You must be wide alert. It can't be. We are sick and tired. We are sick and tired. That's all I'm going to say. We are sick and tired. We want our freedom. We want peace. We want a restart. So stick around. I'm coming back. We need to look at, Xavier Kasukwiri, and also looking at a lot going on in the Zanu PF space. And Kasukwiri will be head on with Chamisa. Okay, by the way, I'm just waiting for a green light, y'all. I'm going to be at the forefront, pushing for the campaign for Chamisa, and I mean business. I mean business, I don't mind to be an online girl who's going to be at the forefront and say, no. It's time to have a God-fearing man in the space, clean resume in the space, and lead the people of Zimbabwe. That's all I'm going to be fighting for. You know what I mean? And thank you so much for joining us. So you need to come back in the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We are looking at Xavier Kasukwiri's campaign. I love you all, and may God bless you, and may God bless Zimbabwe. Thank you for now, and bye. See you shortly. It's heating up, y'all. It's getting exciting.